In all of our society, but especially in Hollywood, there is an obsession with perfection that can lead to self-loathing and neurosis and all that kind of stuff. What crushed my soul was hanging out with bitter, desperate comics backstage. They're a different breed than the bitter yet eager psyches in the wings of an improv theater. Struggling stand-ups have externalized self-loathing into an art form. They're a hunching, quaking, unshaven lot. Like, your body has to get used to being in front of people. Like, and you have to be kind of a ham, you know? Like, the thing about writers is they're generally comedy writers, self-loathing, sort of play small. And as a, performer, you have to think like a comedy writer but act like a performer. How often are the perpetrators of hate crimes discovered to be self-loathing? Valued individuals do not strike out against strangers. I don't think closeted homosexual morticians have the market cornered on self-loathing or sense of shame. I have a very healthy dose of self-loathing, but I think we all have a past of being whatever our story was, of feeling not good enough. It can propel you to work harder and do more, but it can also be a tremendous trap, and you can't see beyond it. It's really hard to foster self-love, it really is. I think a lot of people who claim that they do have a definite lack of self-loathing are either lying or just in a place that I don't relate to. I'm very motivated by the occasional creative payoff that comes when something goes really well, be it a song, a recording, or performance. The payoff is enormous, when you get it. Most of the time, though, I'm filled with self-loathing and general frustration at the limitations I have as a musician. Art saved me, it got me through my depression and self-loathing, back to a place of innocence. The most moving parts of Real American come when Lithcott Hames stares unflinchingly at her own self-loathing, writing about the racist encounters of her childhood that convinced her from a young age that there was something inherently wrong with being black. You either listen to the naysayers and fall into the pit of self-loathing, or you stay on the path and move forward. It's sort of admirable that America is big enough to put up with the contemptuous self-loathing. Americans are freer than anyone in the world to say and do whatever they like, but when freedom cluelessly turns against itself, it can become a liability. There's a mixture of pride and self-loathing in Jewish female comedians that I've always admired and wanted to bring into Jinx. My capacity as a monk was to passionately believe utter nonsense, and when you're an actor you have to do the same thing. Also, Christianity used to have a lot to do with self-loathing and an acceptance of criticism and things like that, which is terribly important for actors. When you're a nerd, you know there's a million types of neurotic self-loathing. I grew up very self-loathing. I was a phobic. I had anxiety. I had panic attacks. I have a combination of self-love and self-loathing, just like most people. Being a parent has taught me a lot of things already, you know, though it's only been a year and a half, and has made me address parts of myself that I would otherwise live in comfortable denial of. Or for instance, my self-loathing. The key to humor is often self-loathing or sarcasm. In a sense, that's how self-loathing is made palatable. Social media, despite its reputation as the ultimate agent of self-promotion, actually feeds on self-loathing. I still enjoy my life, and I feel like I've achieved enough things that if I never did anything again, I'd feel confident that I'd still have made my mark in some way. But maybe the self-loathing bit is the element that makes you strive for more, makes you strive to be better. I understand the self-loathing and the resentment, and the discipline that it takes to sit down in front of a typewriter or computer every single day, whether it's going well or not going well. There was a warm and encouraging environment at home. My self-loathing and neuroticism are not because of my upbringing. Every single time I step into the studio, I say, can I still do this? Do I still have it? Have I ever had it? I suppose there's a good amount of self-loathing that goes into any form of artisanship. When I was in my early 40s, I slept with a loaded gun under my bed. I'd become severely depressed in my 30s, and for almost a decade I spiraled down into paranoia, rage, self-loathing, and thoughts of suicide. I do want to say the process of writing a novel is riddled with self-doubt and self-loathing. I felt like I had a really bad case of writer's block. Music is so therapeutic for me that if I can't get it out, I start feeling bad about myself, a lot of self-loathing. Washington has always had a pretty healthy amount of self-loathing. I was enamored of New York City intellectual life and was really into Philip Roth because I was raised by self-loathing Midwesterners who were from Southern Illinois, who felt like fish out of water when they came to the East Coast when I was a kid. Most novelists I know went through a period of intense self-examination and self-loathing after the terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center. I certainly did. I had such intense self-loathing for so long. What is most difficult is when the large part of me that is a narcissist grows weary and is overtaken by the self-loathing part that always lurks in the shadows waiting for an opportunity to shine. A lot of the problems I had with fame I was bringing on myself. A lot of self-loathing, a lot of woe is me. Now I'm learning to see the positive side of things, instead of, like, I can't go to Kmart. I can't take my kids to the haunted house. I'm self-loathing, introverted, and neurotic. Self-loathing is a waste of time. I think many people expend a tremendous amount of energy on self-loathing and self-flagellation as well as getting caught in a vicious cycle of dieting and gaining the weight back. There is no question you get pumped up by the recognition. Then a self-loathing sets in when you realize you're enjoying it. Downward spiral, felt like I had an unending bottomless pit of rage and self-loathing inside me and I had to somehow challenge something or I'd explode. I thought I could get through by putting everything into my music, standing in front of an audience and screaming emotions at them from my guts. A world of few choices, whether in genes or mates, is a world in which individual differences become sources of alienation, unhappiness, even self-loathing. If no genes fit, you'll feel uncomfortable or inferior. If no housing developments reflect your taste for unique architecture, you'll write screeds against Philistine mass culture. Like a lot of people, I've got a self-loathing streak that's alive and well. It acts as a de facto engine when I'm working, but it also has its extraordinary pitfalls, too. I'm the worst night owl, because I'm a self-loathing night owl who thinks, no, I should be getting up early. It feels unproductive. I must get over that. Even after he was gone, I still loved my father. I looked Norwegian, like him, with a long face, strong jaw, thin mouth, and flashing eyes. And, like him, I was verbal, easygoing, and low-key on the surface, and, deep down, proud, socially paranoid, full of self-loathing, and prone to rage at injustice. With Free Agent Nation, I was figuring out how to write a book along with writing the book. Now I think I've sort of figured out how to write a book a little bit better. But the process remains not that different, slow, laborious, tiny, incremental progress each day, punctuated by feelings of despair and self-loathing. I'm a self-loathing slide player. Some people like the way I play slide, I hate it. I am not racked with self-loathing. Some issues of guilt and shame, but I'm a pretty good guy. My last album as J. Tillman, Singing Axe, that was really a premeditated death rattle of the aesthetic precedent I had set. I realized I wasn't creating spontaneously, I was enforcing all these parameters. I was too self-loathing or something, and there was this obvious dissonance between my conversational voice and creative voice. Narcissism is not about self-love. It's a clinical trait that belies a deep sense of emptiness, low self-esteem, emotional detachment, self-loathing, extreme problems with intimacy. Boys with a failure to launch are invisible to most girls. With poor social skills, the boys feel anger at their fear of being rejected and self-loathing at their inability to compete. Music is so therapeutic for me that if I can't get it out, I start feeling bad about myself, a lot of self-loathing. It's an epidemic. Instead of socializing and having proper conversations, we're staring at pictures of models in bikinis and wondering how they look like that. It's like self-loathing. Visit our website for more quotes, quoting.com.